You know, when you think of Thailand, you probably picture these amazing beaches, vibrant culture, the whole package. But the source material we're digging into today, it paints a totally different picture. It suggests that underneath that beautiful surface, there's something seriously wrong.
And that brings us to this really stark question. Is the famous Land of Smiles actually on the verge of becoming what some analysts are calling a failed state? And look, that's not just some dramatic headline. It's a real concern, born from some deep, tangled problems that are eating away at the country from the inside out. So let's unpack this, starting at the very top.
So where does a problem this big even begin? Well, the first domino, the one that really sets everything else in motion, is the country's incredibly unstable political core. You'll see that pretty much every other issue we talk about today branches out from this one fundamental weakness.
And this is where you really see the disconnect. On paper, sure, Thailand is a democracy, but in reality, the political scene is just a constant churn of military coups and bitter power struggles between the elites. What that creates is this super fragile system where, as the source points out, it feels like very few politicians are actually working for the people. Any real progress just gets completely sideswiped. Now, all this political chaos, it doesn't just stay in the political world. It spills over and has a direct and pretty devastating impact on the nation's economy. Because as we're about to see, when a country's leadership is shaky, big money gets, well, it gets really nervous.
And here is the cold, hard proof. Right now, the Thai stock market is the worst performing market in the entire world. We're not talking about just a bad quarter here. This is a massive red flag for the whole economy. It's a crystal clear signal that foreign investors are losing faith and are pulling their money out to put it into neighboring countries that look a lot more stable. And if you look a little closer, you can see the rot setting in industries that were once Thailand's pride and joy. Take rice farming. It's this huge cultural and economic pillar, right? Well, now it's basically a loss-making business, propped up by subsidies, with no real plan for the future. And that Detroit of Asia nickname? It's fading fast. The world is moving to electric cars, and Chinese EV makers are swooping in, using fewer local parts, and basically cutting the Thai auto industry out of its own future.
Okay, so we've got political instability and a tanking economy, but what does that actually feel like for the average person living there? That brings us to the most direct impact of all, the burden on the people.
This number right here, it's just staggering. Household debt has exploded to 92% of the entire country's GDP. That's not just some abstract number on a spreadsheet. That's the crushing reality for millions of Thai families. They're caught between a culture that encourages spending and incomes that just can't keep up. This debt is absolutely destroying their ability to buy things, let alone build any kind of wealth for the future.
And all of this leads to a really scary possibility, something called a deflationary trap. Now, you might think, hey, falling prices, that's great, but it's actually a huge danger sign. It means the economy is shrinking. People stop spending money because they think prices will drop even more, which of course just makes the economy shrink further. The source warns that Thailand is getting dangerously close to the kind of long-term economic quicksand that Japan has been stuck in for decades.
And if all that wasn't enough, there's a demographic time bomb ticking in the background. Thailand is staring down what's being called an old before rich crisis. See, the birth rate is dropping like a stone, so there are fewer and fewer young workers to support a rapidly aging population. The problem is the elderly don't have enough savings, and the young people who are supposed to be supporting them are already getting hammered by low wages and debt. It's just a perfect storm. So, as if all those internal problems weren't bad enough, there's also this massive external pressure that's making everything worse. The source material calls it a great wall of goods, and honestly, that's a pretty good way to describe it.
This slide really says it all. There's just a flood of super cheap Chinese products pouring into the Thai market, and the local small and medium-sized businesses, the lifeblood of any healthy economy, they just can't compete. They're being forced to shut down, and there's really nowhere else for them to go, no other industries to pivot into. It just hollows out the local economy even more.
So, let's put all the pieces together. Weak politics, a struggling economy, a population drowning in debt, and overwhelming foreign competition. These aren't separate problems. They're all connected, feeding into each other and creating this dangerous, self-reinforcing cycle.
And you can see that vicious cycle right here. It starts with weak politics, which makes it impossible to manage the economy effectively. That leads to economic stagnation. A stagnant economy then creates social decay. We're talking high debt, no jobs, and an aging population in crisis. And all that social pressure, it just fuels more political instability, which brings us right back to the start of the loop, only worse. It is a classic downward spiral.
Which brings us to the final and most important thought. The picture the source material paints is pretty grim. A nation really caught in a powerful, negative feedback loop. So the real question isn't just about understanding what's happening, but what happens next? Can this cycle even be broken?